Nation. We had a couple little delays, starting a little bit late, but that's okay. We're gonna have a great show for you today. But joining me as always is co-host extraordinaire TC. How you doing?
Did you say extraordinaire?
Yes, you are extraordinary.
I'm extra something.
um,
Can't believe feels like it was just a week ago that we did this.
it really does, and I was pushing out a lot of the things that you've been pushing out on the USS Liberty. So I hope you're seeing a lot of people, a lot of traffic coming to your channel on that because that's a very important story that the American public needs to know about.
Well, it was supposed to be a joint project. I was waiting for you to figure out how to download it off of the channel and put it up on ours because I haven't been able to figure out technology enough to be able to
I'm
send it to you or to Juan. And Juan, who is supposed to be Mr. Tech guy, with the Air Force thing, um, has hasn't given me any hints on how I can get it to him for him to put up on RAM. So uh, I guess if you want to keep pushing people to watch it, it would be wonderful because we're not getting as many views as that deserves. Those guys from the Liberty, um, the story, the first part of the conversation is incredibly important, and I want everybody to watch it. But the second part of the conversation is the detail about the attack,
mhm.
and we don't really get into until this next week. We'll get into not the attack on the Liberty. We'll get into the attack on Liberty and the survivors of the attack on Liberty, and the things that were said to them, and all of the other cover up that went on around it. This next part of this short little series. So yeah, it's one thing to read about it. It's one thing to listen to them talk about it with somebody else. It's another thing to be part of that conversation
Yeah.
and hear them tell that story and how they've been treated, not just by the U.S. government, but how they've been treated by the VFW. It was the VFW, or yeah,
I think it was the American Legion. They said
no,
one of them.
American Legion. How they were treated by the American Legion, and why. So it really wish people would go over to Minnesota Black Robe Regiment and watch
Yep.
that conversation that Skipper and I had with the Liberty guys.
This is a really good segue into our guest because our guest is a guy he's a friend of our show, and our shows, this group that he's with, us all working together, it just shows how important it is for veterans to stick together when there's things like this, and we know the government is doing things like this. So um, let's go ahead and bring in our guest, Bry from Dogface IO. Hey, Bry, how you doing?
Well, guys, how are you?
Oh, we're doing well here.
Can you guys hear me?
Uh,
We can hear you. You're a little staticky.
yeah, you're roboting a little bit.
How about now?
Oh, we got you. It just sounds a little bit distant. Uh, but yeah, have you ever heard of the story of the USS Liberty, Bry?
I can't say that I have, to be honest with you.
That's
Is this something that was recently in the news, or?
no. This was
No, well, it should be, but
it was a USS ship that
1967.
1967 was attacked by the Israeli government, and the American public really doesn't know about it because it was not really there wasn't a lot said about it.
It was intentionally covered up, and the
Government
survivors
cover up? Never.
involving decisions made about the military. The heck you say?
Impossible.
Uh,
Impossible.
I I know. I mean, you know what? You've heard us say, anytime the military investigates itself and announces the finding of their investigation, it always comes out that we've investigated ourselves and we found we've done nothing wrong. But yeah,
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, if you get a, I'll share it on Twitter. I know you're on Twitter more. I'll share it out on Twitter again. Hopefully, you could push that out to some of the people from Dogface, because they would. I think the story is important. Well, I don't think it is. It's incredibly important, and parts 3 and 4 are going to be very pivotal going forward for the American people, especially for the veteran community, because these are a group of guys here on Veteran Nation. These are a group of guys that are profoundly important to the conversation about how veterans are treated, and often ignored if you don't fit a particular bill. And because you guys have all been in combat zones, and I was never in that situation, and so people do, and you guys know this, people take a look at guys who've been in combat zones, who've been deployed into theaters of war, or combat operation areas, and they'll look at you differently than the rest of the veteran community, and I think there's a legitimate reason for that. It We did serve in completely different times. I served at a time of relative peace, um, but there's still something to be said for how veterans during peacetime are treated. And then you take a situation like what happened with the USS Liberty, when the United States was ostensibly at peace outside of their involvement in Vietnam conflict that had already started at that point. And anybody outside of Vietnam at that point was not really considered important. And then you take the cover up around the USS Liberty and what we know about the USS Liberty and why it was done, and what had happened, and look at how those veterans have been treated and even ostracized by the veteran community. When you look at the American Legion and others, and how they responded to them, and it should anger the veteran community. If we could get this story out there, I think it would change even the American Legion's decision on how they treat the Liberty Survivors Group, because these guys are heroes, real heroes. And the conversation does entail a discussion about, everyone's favorite war hero, John McCain, who was a hero for nothing more than being shot down and being held prisoner. I don't like literally. I mean, he's a war hero. I mean, like, for what? Almost destroying his aircraft carrier and then later on getting shot down. That's his hero status. And somehow he's a hero, but the guys on the Liberty are not talked about, and this all takes place at the same time. So yeah, I'm done. That's the closest I'm going to get to a rant today. I'm not.
To give you a little bit more background, the skipper of the USS Liberty did everything he could to save and help every one of his sailors. He still was injured, commanded. He is the only.
Don't tell the rest of that story yet.
Okay.
Episode 3 and 4.
Okay. I'll spoiler. We'll give it.
Spoiler, yeah. I was like,
But actually, it also talks about you guys at Dogface. You help a lot of veterans. Tonight, I've got a series of videos about a disabled veteran in Michigan who is fighting corruption, and he's been assaulted, he's been harassed, and it's just a guy who wants to live his life. I've got some videos that get into him.
I wanna ask a question going into this, because I haven't, me, I love these kind of videos, and I like to really dig into them, and I like to look at them from the perspective of, what did this person do right, what did the cops do wrong, but also, excuse me, what has this individual done wrong, and how much of his story are we hearing? And so, Skipper, as we get ready to, so Juan, if you could cue that first video up. Skipper, what do we know about this individual? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, Skipper sprung this on me at the end of last week, kind of like, hey, it was the end of last week, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, watch this, and I watched it. I'm like, well, yeah, that's a little weird, because in one of the videos, he's called about a harassment protection order. That's a way of saying it, but it's And one of the responding city cops shows up wearing a Batman mask and literally says that he's wearing the Batman mask to mock the guy.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, I'll give you
that's bad form, regardless of what the history is. That's bad form. That's unprofessional, and it's beyond the pale. The cop should be reprimanded, placed on unpaid leave for a period of time for just that unprofessional behavior. But what do we know, Skipper, about him going into this? Has he been kind of a thorn in the side? Is he an overreactionary kind of guy? Is he one of those guys who goes out and does auditing and gets as mad as possible to provoke the cops, to make them look bad? I mean, and I'm not trying to, I just haven't had time to check into him. So I want to be fair, but he's a disabled vet, so I also want to treat him with dignity.
I stumbled across his first video, which was taken about a year and a half ago, when it was a crazy neighbor video, and I just watched it, and pretty much it was his neighbor who was attacking him while he was on his golf cart, and that kind of went viral. And so I was like, okay, I just want to see if there's anything else about this guy. And I just kind of, he was always on my radar. Just I would come back, watch some videos and whatnot. And what he's pretty much had is, he had a neighbor who he bought this piece of property that where he already had an easement and he had a dock. And the neighbor had a problem with him going to his dock and was doing some like things to try to deter him from going to his dock. And he had videos of that. But again, like you said, it's a one-sided story. And I kept watching his videos. He was documenting more and more, which if you have a problem with your neighbor, the first thing people are going to do is tell you, document everything, call the cops, get it documented, and then they're also going to tell you to eventually go for a personal protection order, personal protection order to the court. He's done all those. So he's been documenting this, and yeah, about 2 weeks ago, this Batman video hit. It has gone viral, and Juan, you can go ahead and show the video. There's been other stuff, and this is just going to be a snippet. And Juan has the full videos of all these, so if you want to see the full one, we can watch the three. But I edited it down for Juan.
Yeah, let's do the edited one, because the other one would be way too long.
Looks like we got it coming up here.
Go ahead and fill the dead space, Skipper. That's your job.
Well, yeah, I have had a discussion.
Don't put pressure on the rack.
I have had a discussion with this gentleman. His name is Justin Schatz. He lives outside of Battle Creek, Michigan. He is a Coast Guard veteran, and I've watched a lot of his videos here in the last several days since this happened. And yesterday, he was attacked 4 times in one day. We got the video up here.
Right. There we go.
For Supervisor Joni Jones to try and cover up her crimes. This is an entire township meeting called special emergency meeting, 7:30 a.m. Monday morning. This township supervisor has called this meeting to try and cover up her crimes. As I said, she filed a false police report against me, alleging that I came here armed to threaten her. And now she's having this meeting to try and cover her crimes. You look, you'll see a board member open carrying now. Apparently she's not afraid of that.
No, man, I'm a sheriff's deputy. Not duty. I came here for a special meeting. As you well know, I work for the prosecutor's office. Okay, this isn't an open meeting between you and me. I work for the prosecutor's office.
Let go of me.
Okay?
Let go of me. Let go of me. I was just assaulted in public in front of numerous witnesses by an armed guy saying he's a sheriff's deputy. I'm pressing charges. I'm pressing charges. I'm pressing charges. Someone called the police for me. Someone called the police for me. What is your badge number? What is your name? You're a public official. You have no right to not be recorded. It's a Supreme Court decision. Yes.
right after?
No, not right after. It was after I came down here and was on my boat and had to get my camera back out and start videotaping because Deb was down here harassing me. I have on video where she came up here on the side by side, I believe 6 times in a row within a period of about 15 minutes.
I mean, Deb's not on PPO, right?
No, she's not.
Okay, I'm gonna go speak with Corey, and then I will send it over to the prosecutor's office. As you know, because this is the multiple, and you are able to call the PPO coordinator.
Is this
and
officer
request
wearing a
show-
Batman mask?
I believe that's Sergeant Fickle.
This is after you labeled me as Batman on your last rant. I decided to bring some levity into the situation since
And that's it for the video. So I know those are just snippets, but those are kind of the most egregious.
Go ahead, Brian. You got something to say. I can see it on your face.
You know, I just get away from the gentleman. There's just a lot more there that we're unaware of. You know, I mean, I know, you know, that just for a law enforcement officer to put on a mask, I mean that's absolutely 100% unprofessional, without a doubt, and something needs to be done by all means. You know, unfortunately, they're taking a shot at him. You know, and God knows how either one of us would act in that situation. But on the outside looking in, I think it's pretty funny. You know, maybe he was. You know, he said, "I'm trying to bring some levity to the situation, trying to make a light of the situation." But honestly, you know, looking a little further, he's definitely he's poking a bear. You know, they've had multiple interactions, and you know that's painfully obvious from you know what's being shown just in those few little snippets that we've seen.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm like that. He has no the issue of the rights are out the window in this situation. He has a professional and ethical responsibility under the situation to, regardless of having been labeled Batman or whatever the case might be, he has a duty to respond with neutrality and not intentionally try and provoke the situation. I mean, the forethought that had to go into this, one, perusing the guy's YouTube channel, which is fine. This is what he put. That's why he has a YouTube channel. But to peruse the guy's YouTube channel, to then go out and whether he ordered on Amazon or went to Dollar General or, you know, went to Walmart or whatever the case might be, to put the effort into going out, buying this mask, putting it in his taxpayer-funded vehicle and keeping it with him, waiting for a call that he knows is going to come because there's a conflict between these private citizens, and then put it on to respond, is egregious, regardless of the individual's status as a frequent caller, and regardless of his status as a veteran or not as a veteran. And I just want to say, as a member of the Coast Guard, he has more cred than the Space Force.
I do want to mention this. The order of those videos is actually reversed. So the Batman video was 2 weeks ago. The deputy putting his hands on him, that was yesterday morning, and then the weed eater video was yesterday afternoon. So it's a reverse order.
And the weed eater video is his neighbor using his weed eater on him.
Yes. In that video, if we were to show the whole thing, he's in front of his dock, and the neighbor comes over to him to weed eat. So it's provoking behavior, but I think they are provoking each other a little bit. The one thing though, I was always watching these videos, and I really was kind of neutral just watching, because you know you're kind of getting one side of the story, even though the camera is an objective witness. But after that Batman video, I was much more suspicious of the county government, and what I found out about the the deputy who puts his hands on him, that deputy was not there as a deputy. He is correct. He works in the prosecutor's office. He works in child services. He was there because he is a township trustee. He was not there in the capacity as being a deputy. At TC, I know you probably have some opinions on that.
I don't know what makes you say that. I
Deputy yourself.
I struggle.
Deputy.
Former, well, for the guys that work the roads, which he doesn't, because he's child services. So I don't know if is he an investigatory deputy in child protective services. I don't know anything about the guy. But for the guys that work the road, they even when they're in street clothes and they're in a community like this, it's clearly this. We're not dealing with LA County or Broward County or even Olmsted County or Ramsey County or Hennepin County. We're dealing with whatever this county is, whatever this town. I mean, this township. I mean, it's tiny. I mean, they look like they meet in a Kwanzaa hut. Like it's a Connex. It looks like they're meeting in a Connex, and you guys know how meetings in Connexes end up. But it's not big, so everybody knows who he is. So in his defense, what he does say there is like, I work for the prosecutor. What do you say, the county attorney's office or the whatever. He does say that. He goes, you know who I am. You know very well where I work and what I do. And there is a reality in which even when he's not on duty, he's going to be seen as that authority figure.
Yeah, he can still protect the public.
But that being said, he had no justifiable cause to put his hands on the guy. On is it Schott?
Yeah,
Mr. Schott?
Justin Schott is his name.
Yeah. He had no justifiable reason to put his hands on him. And I'll say again, like you look at the school board meeting last year in Rochester, Minnesota, where I was physically accosted by a retired Rochester Police Department lieutenant who now functions as the administrator of building safety and security. Had I put my hands on him in that situation, the school resource officers that were there watching would have been obligated to take me down, put me in cuffs, at the very least, and escort me out of the building, and charge me if he wanted me charged with assault. But he put his hands on me, and I said I would like to press charges, and we're like, well, no, he was justified in his actions. And this is where, as a former member of the law enforcement community, there again on the detention end, I wasn't a street cop, but as a former member of that community, that's an untenable position. This man should be charged with a crime. If Justin wants to have him charged, he should be charged. He should be charged, period. Whether or not he was actually harmed doesn't matter. He said, you assaulted me. I didn't give you permission to put your hands on me. I didn't offer. And he did. He reached out, grabbed him, and redirected him. That's asinine. Go ahead, Brian. You got something to say. I can see it.
I didn't see that he had his badge visible anywhere, and he didn't issue any lawful orders. So, coupled that with the physical touch, I mean, there's at least two violations right there.
There's a lot
absolutely
to this story as I've been researching and watching a lot of his videos. He does have the video of that went before that meeting where the town supervisor called the police. He has an interaction with her. It is recorded. He's just like, hey, I just want to meet with you and talk about these issues that are happening. And she says, I'm not going to meet with you if it's going to be recorded. It's not going to happen. And he's like, I have a right to record you. She turns around and walks away. That's the interaction. There was no threat. So unless if she has any proof of any other type of threat, with that board supervisor meeting, what they were doing was they were doing a special emergency session so that they can hire security because they're being threatened by citizens who are open carrying. Because he was open carrying, but he made no threats. And a lot of citizens came out to that. So that's those individuals that you see there who are just like, hey, you can't spend taxpayer money because you don't like that some guy comes into the town hall armed, which is perfectly legal.
Well, and another thing is that they already had security inside the building at
Yep.
this meeting. They had private security, not a cop. They had private security inside that building, and he got involved and told them, and then when they asked him what his name was, and some other information, he basically said, well, that's none of your business. Well, like, no, at the point that you've been hired by the township and you're now acting as security, it is my business. I do have a right to demand to know that. And this guy, was clearly just ill-equipped to deal with, deal with this situation. And he did put out, I believe he did put out where he's claiming, and I haven't had a chance to watch it because it just popped up in my suggested, that he was actually physically assaulted by three. He's claiming he was physically assaulted by three deputies.
He actually has video
or three officers.
Because yesterday
Yeah.
he did have a court
And-
hearing on the easement situation. He has the PPO order in place.
He's the petitioner in this. He's the petitioner. He's not the person being charged. He's the petitioner.
And
And
Batman and two
and
other
so I want
cops-
people to understand that.
Batman and two other cops last week showed up to his court hearings and testified against him. And yesterday, him and his lawyers were able to present the videos, and the judge said, I'm leaving the PPO in place. Everyone's going to go to mediation, which I think is the right thing. But when he came out of the courtroom, he turned on his camera and was doing a live stream telling people what was going on in court. And yeah, three deputies told him that he could not film inside the courthouse. He wasn't in a courtroom. He was inside the courthouse in the public lobby, and they tackled him and confiscated his phone temporarily.
So what I'm going to say to this, and maybe Bri has a different take on this. I don't think he will, but he can beat me up. So I'm not going to argue with him. He'd have to find me first. I'm really good at hiding. The way that they're treating him, the dismissive, demeaning behavior, the disrespect, showing up to where, to a call, saying you're bringing levity to a situation, and since you called me Batman, I'm going to wear a mask, and yada, yada, yada. The fact that they testified against him, the fact that he was physically assaulted, he didn't do anything wrong, and I don't care if there is a law that says you can't record in the lobby of a courtroom. That law is unconstitutional. I'd even argue that courtrooms should be recorded. You should be able to record in a courtroom, if you ask me. That's, I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I don't think the court should ever be secret. I don't think there should be anything as a secret court. Period, ever. But the lobby of the courthouse, are you kidding me? They're hiding something. They're hiding something. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care where you go these days with the advent of these little devices right here. If you carry a firearm, open or concealed, whether you're in a constitutional carry state, if you're having a conversation with someone about something and it's not gonna, you don't think it's gonna go well, but you have to have that conversation. If you get pulled over, if you're interacting with anybody and that's in an official capacity, this puppy needs to be out. It needs to be recording, and if you can, stream it somewhere. If you can't stream it, make sure you've got it recorded and you have it in some sort of redundancy, because this right here, these things are going to be the savior of our republic, because for far too long, those of us that have sworn an oath have watched time and time and time again as that oath that we took has been beat up on by other people who swear that oath. Not just people in law enforcement, but office holders, public servants, over and over and over again, have continued to demonstrate that they don't give a damn about the Constitution. They don't give a damn about that same oath that they take. They want to hide. They do not want the transparency. This right here is the end of that. And this, and what you see with Mr. Justin Schott's case, is exactly why. every single person who works in the public sector, teachers, principals, superintendents, mayors, council members, county commissioners, township board members, township clerks, county auditors, city auditors. The person who works at the DMV at the front desk and has a public facing persona, body camera. Every single freaking one of them. You want to spend my money? That's where I want you to spend my money. Make them all wear body cameras and make them all interact on camera. You want to see how things change? That's how things will change.
Bri, what say you?
I definitely feel there's still a lot going on there that we don't know about. Yeah, I mean, with there's a lot of failure to accept responsibility on the end of local government there. And if they did accept responsibility, coupled with remaining professional, I think that we would actually have a better grasp of what's going on. Because if this gentleman is sick or upset, we don't know, but it's not painting a very good picture for the municipality or the county that he's in at all. And it's unfortunate. This is a point in time where our brothers in blue, our first responders, that they're getting so much negative attention, and then this comes out on top of it. It's unfortunate, because there's so many people out there that are doing good, and you don't see that. You just see the people that are disrespecting, citizens that are just trying to do the right thing and be contributing members of society.
Absolutely, and I think you might actually appreciate this side of me looking at it, because I'm coming at this as a Marine officer, looking at this and thinking about how you always have that 10% who takes up all your time and they're exhausting. Let's just assume Mr. Schatz is one of that 10%. And I'll tell you, there might actually be some truth to it, because as I watched his videos, it became very evident to me as someone with PTSD that he has PTSD. And, once you have it and you start getting treatment, you can spot it. And that was, when I talked to him this morning, I was like, look, I'm going to tell you, I noticed that you were having an attack. I would encourage you to go talk to somebody because it will improve your life and your situation. But when it comes down to if he's that 10%, I used to get staff and COs who'd be mad at me that when someone would do something slightly wrong, and it was a Marine who was just a POS, and they always wanted to run him up the flagpole, I was always like, you know what, this is not, it doesn't reflect well on us. Take the Marine, counsel him, get documentation of it, and then we know that this guy's going to screw up again. When that happens, that's when you hammer him. And that's really what the municipality should be doing. They should be coming out every time he calls, taking calls, but just go through the motions, do your process is what I would say to them.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's
he's
something
pissed
else
off,
too.
He's pissed off for a reason.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And here's something else too, is that township, that local, whether it's a sheriff's office or a police department, whatever it is, there's absolutely no reason for them to not have critical incident team training. There's absolutely no reason for that. And one of those places where that critical incident team training, and having a critical incident team that is predominantly made up of sworn officers or sworn deputies, is that it helps you identify what's actually happening. Not just whether or not this person is a drug user, but whether or not this person is having a mental health crisis. It's a psychotic break. Is it PTSD? Is it complex PTSD? Is it somebody who's bipolar? Is it somebody who's borderline personality disorder? Is this person really suicidal? Is this a cry for help? You also, and this is almost a given in almost every agency out there now, and I'm not saying all, but it's so predominant now that almost every agency not only teaches use of force, but I also actually teach technically interpersonal communications. And that doesn't just mean being able to talk to a person, and have a great personality. But it literally is a set of skills where you work to develop active listening and active response. You couple that IPC, and that does not mean I punch crooks, by the way. You couple IPC with CRT, and it's okay, Brian. You can laugh at my bad joke. Even Skipper can laugh at my bad jokes. You couple IPC with CRT, and you're going to de-escalate a lot of these situations to the point where you might even be able to bring these two warring parties together and say, what can we do to work this out? And that organization is not interested in that. It's almost they get a kick out of coming out here for this. They enjoy it. That
You could tell.
even if this guy is a complete ass and he's calling 20 times a day, and you want to charge him for misuse or of emergency services or whatever, the fact that they take the time to, clearly they're enjoying this. It's amusing to them. That is a sign that there needs to be a top-down restructuring of that entire agency. And they need a lot of training, which gives me an opportunity to plug my new series. Skipper, you've seen a little bit of it. Defining a good cop, because it's not what you think it is. A good cop is not just the guy who doesn't do bad things. There's a lot more to being a good cop than just not being a bad cop. And so if you get a chance to check that out on my main channel, please do, because it ties into what we're talking about tonight, which is, I think, why Skipper, got me started on this. So, but I have a funny feeling Skipper wanted Brian on for another reason tonight.
Well, actually, with this one, it just kind of came up, and you and I, TC, had already talked about, so that's why I wanted to bring it to the show. Anytime I can bring in more videos and content to the show, I'm going to. What I really wanted to talk about
You just like my rants.
I do love your rants. Was just about being a veteran, but also I wanted to talk a little bit about being a dad, because I've been noticing a lot of things have been coming up, and just being a dad in general. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. I know my military career, I think, really prepared me well for being a father.
You did not. You just say being in the military prepared you well to be a father?
Here's why, and I'll live to this
Okay.
the day I die. You should treat Marines like children, and you should treat your children like Marines.
Oh no!
That's my dad.
I expected my kids to stop eating. I expected my kids to stop eating crayons when they were about 6 months old. So.
Knew that was coming.
Well, we hadn't made a window licking or a crayon joke for a couple of episodes, actually. So
yeah, we did good.
Impressive.
How about you, Brian? Being a veteran, or do you think it's done anything with your life? Made you better, made you worse?
Absolutely. I mean, it instilled so many different things, responsibility, following through once you begin something, accountability, teamwork, everything that you need in the real world after you get out on your own, it's taught to you. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't brought up with that, especially in this day and age. And I hate to say it, I thought growing up that, my upbringing was very strict and rough. But I tell you what, I have the greatest respect and appreciation for my parents now, because I'm able to do all of those things and do them successfully. So, I mean, it wasn't great back then, but I appreciate it now.
we sound like a bunch of old men.
Actually, I was talking to somebody.
When I was a kid.
We all all make fun of the younger generations. You know when I think this country really started changing was when we got
Oh
very
boy.
uptight about smoking. I remember like everybody, if you went into a non-smoker's house, they had ashtrays. Every People used to smoke everywhere, and that to me, like when I think back, that's like the first thing that I'm like, yeah, that's where like people really started telling others what they could do. You know, for better or for worse, but that's where I kind of, as I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, it was smoking.
Well, that's funny
I'm gonna go with
because I go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna go with the internet. I think exposing people to things they are not mentally or physically able to process maturely, that it just opens so many doors that shouldn't be opened.
What'd you have, TC?
No, but Skipper, you had an experience this. You had experience. You said this weekend that really made you
Uh, yeah,
a,
actually,
appreciate
I was
the
talking.
conversation about parenting.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'm in a co-parenting situation, and she's in a co-parenting situation where the father just really wants nothing to do with the child, and they're in sports and
Just
stuff
so
like
everybody
that.
knows, Skipper goes to parenting events on the weekends to pick up on single moms. I just want everybody to be aware of
Uh,
that. So.
Honestly, I was like, what kind of a guy wouldn't want to go to their kid's football game because that's normalization of day drinking on the weekend, and there's a whole bunch of divorced single moms that you can talk to. Like, you're totally missing out
And
if you're not.
Skipper's looking around and seeing moms going, you know what? I know one thing. She's a sure thing. So
Oh my god.
we
No, but actually, it made me it made me think back to things that my dad did. My dad worked for UPS. He was a truck driver, and like I remember him always coming to our sporting events and whatnot. But I do also remember him like he became best friends with our little league coach, and I remember like my mom would be like, okay, yeah, you bring the kids home because him and the coach were drinking at the baseball diamond, and us kids were running around and stuff like that. And like 2 hours later, mom's like, where are you and the kids? Like Kanan picked us up because they were still there telling jokes and drinking. And we even did as a kid, we did a Cub Scout camp out. And it was my dad and a good friend of ours. His son was in my class. His name was Gary. All the other dads went to sleep on this Cub Scout campout. But Dad and Gary, they're drinking beer, they're playing cards, having a good old time. In the meantime, like 40 of us kids, 40 boys, like 7 to 10 years old, we're running wild through the woods like it's Lord of the Flies. It is absolute anarchy. And I remember my mom came back because I went to a church, a parochial school, and yeah, Gary's wife came to my mom and was like, "Did you hear what they did? They were drinking and all the kids were running crazy." My mom called my dad out. My dad was like, "We were the responsible ones. We were awake as all the kids were doing stuff. What are you going to do? Try to
you
herd the cats?"
you said your dad and your football coach were best friend or your baseball coach.
Baseball coach.
Hey Juan, I need you to look up. I need you to look up Chris Fleming, the comedian, and his my dad and my soccer coach. I guarantee
It'll
you,
be good. I haven't seen it,
this
but
will have you guys. I guarantee you, even Bry will laugh. So, do you guys like? I think everybody's military. Obviously, everybody's military experience, even though a lot of them are the same, they're all different, right? And everybody processes things, a little differently. I was listening to a couple of serious podcasts this last couple of days. I do research in the morning for my show. I listen to just a massive amount. I get info dump like big time. Monday through Friday, it's just I take a lot of information in, and the theme this week for me has strangely kind of a strange combination of of complex PTSD and PTSD conversations, and a little bit about parenting and young adults. This all kind of ties in together. And where I was going with this is that because of the military experience and how we look at PTSD and what PTSD is, and what some of the professionals are calling now complex PTSD, because it's a little different than PTSD. You can get PTSD as a vet from a one-time situation and never experienced anything else, but still have the PTSD. While another person who is repeatedly exposed to trauma can develop that complex PTSD, even if it's small, relatively minuscule things, which is one of those reasons why sometimes people will say to me, well, I've got PTSD. And oh, where'd you get that from? Well, this one time my teacher yelled at me. So I try not to be too dismissive, but do you think that in that parenting realm, especially with the modern military especially, do you think that things like PTSD and complex PTSD have made parenting harder for veterans now that we are being kind of inundated with this idea about kinder and gentler parenting? And I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I have a friend who left a church where like your kids should be beaten at the drop of a hat. And I shouldn't say beaten. I wouldn't necessarily say they would advocate actual child abuse, but it was like, oh, your kid said no to you once, spank them immediately. And there's an overreaction, obviously, because we don't do any kind of correction on kids at all anymore. But do you think that the veteran community, especially dads coming out of these war zones, these conflict zones, do you believe that PTSD is playing a bigger part in parenting than we could possibly imagine? Is it making it harder, or do you think they don't correlate at all?
I think it depends on the individual. Well, I mean, it depends on the individual. I mean, because obviously each individual's experience is different. How they process it is different. And what they're doing to rectify or remedy it is different. So, that coupled with your upbringing, I mean, there's so many different factors to that. I mean, obviously it is going to affect it, but, it's, to what degree? I mean, that's the question.
And I'll say yes and no. I think, yes, it can make it tougher, but I'll actually give you my own example. I was very proud of myself about 2 weeks ago because I was having a discussion with a veteran friend of mine and my son. And my veteran friend, we were talking about emotions and said, have you ever seen your dad angry? Not mad, not annoyed, but angry. And my son said, no, and he's 12. And I've worked a lot at my PTSD. I think because I've worked at it, it's made me a better father because I can control my emotions. And just I can still set boundaries. I can still instill respect in my child, but I don't have to lose my cool.
You've also
I don't.
The treatment and been able to identify the things that you needed to address. Now, take, the person who hasn't, that is still battling or still coping, that's the other end of the spectrum. So, I mean, it's completely different experience.
I did not like I still don't like who I became as a dad when I got into the law enforcement world, and in the jaded, almost completely distrusting of anyone mentality. Skipper, you and I've talked about that. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, anytime somebody's like, well, you should, oh, hey, look into this. I'm like, I don't know. It seems pretty scammy to me. And Skipper, you and I've had that conversation. I'm very jaded, and I know it affected my kids. I know for a fact that it affected my kids because it got to the point where they didn't even end up going out with me because I would say to them, while we're getting groceries, you guys stick close to your mom. And if I disappear, that means I saw somebody that I don't want you guys to be seen with me by this person because I don't want them to know that I have a family. And that sounds protective, and it is. I mean, it certainly is protective. But what has that taught them? It taught them that I'm not safe, even though I'm not necessarily doing anything wrong, that it's not even safe to be with me. And even my paranoia sitting at home when, and you can only have some guy locked behind a steel door threatening to kill you when he gets out of jail. When I get out of here, I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you. You can only hear that so many times before you
Absolutely.
start to say that could actually happen. And so now, when I'm sitting on the couch, I'm going to be, I might be sitting on the couch. And that's not just because I'm drinking more as the night goes on. That I don't slouch as much when I'm drinking because I spill. But so I don't like who I was, and I also know that it made me harder. It did make me harder, and at times where my kids needed an understanding dad, and a dad who wasn't just going to say "suck it up and drive on." I know none of us in the military have ever. Well, Space Force probably doesn't hear that as much, but I better be careful because we're going to want to get somebody from the Space Force on here sometime, and they're going to be like, "No, we've heard what that guy says." It's just gonna. I know for a fact it changed me as a dad, and my kids were relatively young, so their formative years really kind of were, for the last almost 13 years, were spent with me in that environment and bringing that home with me. And not the same as being in a combat zone like you guys were. I wasn't having to worry about, somebody trying to, blow me up on the side of the road. But
I do see Juan has a video queued up for us.
Yes.
Sometime in 99, family dinner time. Me, my sister, mom, and dad. Phone rings. Soccer coach. Hi, Tim. Hi, Jim. Chris, won't be having any practice on Tuesday. No practice Tuesday, Chris. Okay, I could hear him through the phone, but thanks. Okay, Tim. Okay. Sounds good. All right, take care. Okay, love you, bye. Joe, do you know what you're gonna say? I said bye, Joe. No, Joe, you said bye. What? No, you didn't. Jesus, Mary. Jesus, Joe. There is no joy like that of an 11-year-old boy hearing his strange dad accidentally telling him straight up that he loves him. Bear in mind, this isn't California, where such an exchange might be ordinary between two men after, say, a particularly good hot yoga class. This is Massachusetts, where a man can be hanged for wearing orange. Stop pacing around, it's not that big of a deal. Yes, it's a big deal, Nancy. I just told my son's soccer coach that I just squeaked out an erotic nighttime whisper to my son's soccer coach. Take care of it how? Send it Russell Stovers? I need to go into the woods or something. No, you don't, Joe. My dad is now occupying a level of hell that few people will ever know. And I think his dreams went something like this. Tim, is that you? Tim, is that you? Tim, let me explain. I didn't mean what I said. It's just one of those habits. You know how it goes. Us guys. Okay, I gotta go. I love you, God. Oh my God, why did I say it again?
And that is what I just pictured when you said when you said that your dad and your coach were best friends.
You know, what's funny is that looked like the two of you before the show.
Well, that's us after the show too. So
Better Nation After Dark. No, I'm not doing that.
come on, I know how you and Cam roll.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. So hey, how's the thank you, Juan, for looking that up, by the way. I found that funny just because of Skipper's comment. So whether or not anybody, I enjoyed it, which is all that matters to me, because I am a selfish bastard. How are things going for you guys over at Dogface, and how is the? I see that you are all challenging each other to push-ups in strange, varied ways, and I was never much of a push-up guy. I was a runner, so I'm on my feet all day. So.
Especially this week, we have seen a lot more engagement, which is it's amazing. The statistic hasn't gone down. It's still 22 veterans take their life on average per day. But to see the interaction and the engagement from everybody else, it's awesome. You don't have to do 22 push-ups. You don't have to do 22 sit-ups. You know, just get up there, get the message out. You know, spread the word. It's you know, it's more than that. It's not a number, and that's what people fail to realize. It's a brother, it's a mother, it's a father, it's a person. This is your family member. You know, and the more that we get this out there, the more good that we can do. You know, it's still, you know, not being highly as publicized as it should be, acknowledged by the government. So, you know, the more that we could do, you know, the better. I'm completely blown away by, you know, just the interaction. It's a blessing to be a part of it. It truly is.
I mean, Dogface is predominantly made up of vets. I mean, I'm sure there are other people who are following and taking part now that aren't vets, but Dogface is predominantly made up of vets. Do you guys have a pretty strong East Coast contingency right now?
It's pretty well split, to be honest with you. You know, we're growing every day. You know, yes, we are. I would say, you know, when we first became acquainted, we were predominantly veteran. But, you know, the community is, you know, it's probably a good 50-50 split of veterans as well as service responders, quite a few active duty, just supporters, you know, people that get in behind the mission because, you know, there's a cause there. There's a reason, you know. You know, it's, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. You know, it's something to believe in that's tangible. You know, it's not something that, you know, that you know, like, oh, well, you know, this is going to go by the wayside. You know, it's a fad. No, this is real. This is legitimate. You know, this is a real issue we're dealing with, veterans causes. And, you know, whether it's PTSD, veteran homelessness, mental health awareness, transitioning from service after separation. There's so many different things that need to be, you know, that need recognition, acknowledgement. And this is our platform to do this. We're using Web3 and NFTs to draw that attention. And not only that, we're able to, you know, spread the word and grow as a community through this platform. You know, it's definitely given me an out, and it's given me a newfound drive to do more. You know, I mean, instead of just meandering, you know, bumbling through life, you know, like I have a newfound mission and purpose, and you know, and I'm not the only one, and that's what's awesome about this. You know, it's a group of unified people with a common goal, which is similar to some of the previous experiences we've all had.
yeah,
My mission and goal is to meander through life. So that's my whole. I'm just to meander. I'm 50. I'm going to be 52. I figure my meandering years are here. I do have a challenge for you guys over at Dogface, by the way.
What's that?
And this is actually a friendly challenge, but a heartfelt challenge. We need an East Coast contingency in the neighborhood of. Man, my brain can't think of it right now, so I'll have to text you the name of the town. We have a young combat vet who was formerly homeless named Josh Rohr, who was Gastonia. There we go. Gastonia City and Gastonia police attacked this man early this year, wrongfully arrested him, abused him, and they have a history. I think it's called the Eagle Squad of singling out for harassment and physical abuse homeless people in Gastonia. Many of those are vets. But Josh was singled out for harassment and abuse. His service dog was tased needlessly, was subsequently turned over to basically a stranger, and the dog, having been traumatized by the incident, jumped this care person's fence and was hit by a car and killed. Josh has been fighting for justice to get the video cam footage of the incident where he was attacked by the city of Gastonia. And they are fighting this tooth and nail. They will not hold the officers involved accountable. They will not be transparent in their investigation. In fact, one of the officers involved, his dad, is the head of the Internal Affairs Division for the Gastonia PD and the one conducting the investigation. Gastonia City Council will not move. They will not act. They will not do anything. We've got a large contingency of libertarian types. Spike Cohen and others are now starting to get involved, but they're also at the same time over in Gastonia, they are coming after a guy named Pastor Moses, who was operating a homeless shelter, so to speak, and a food shelf and kind of a soup kitchen, and they shut him down, saying that wasn't the job of the church. And so they are now trying to charge him with violation of their city's codes and statutes. And they once again have a large contingency of vets in that area who are sadly homeless. And I would really like to see the Dogface army, the Dogface crew, stir up some interest in this situation in Gastonia, because it is one of those that I do genuinely believe is worth us getting involved in. And I cannot think of a. Go ahead, bro.
Sorry, brother. If there is absolutely no wrongdoing on the part of the veteran, and he is being unjustly treated, by all means, I know for a fact that there's multiple people within the community, if not the whole community, that would get behind that veteran in that cause.
No, and I can attest to numerous conversations with numerous people involved. They will attest to the fact that this vet did nothing wrong, and they're even willing to be exposed for being liars if the if the body cam footage will demonstrate that they're lying. They're willing to be told that they're liars. They're willing to be called out for this. That's how serious they are on this. Josh deserved better, and his service dog, Sunshine, deserved better.
So upon subpoena, they have not released it?
They're coming up with excuse after excuse after excuse as to why they are not obligated to give the information out through data practices request or FOIA. And those two things are slightly different, but they're doubling down. They're hiding something. Everybody knows they're hiding something. They know they're hiding something.
I'm going to do a video on this channel about FOIA, because I had a whole class on it as a journalist, and people don't, like, random people, they know FOIA exists, but they've probably never done it. So I'm going to do a video. I'll post it on our YouTube channel for those. And yeah, TC, let's get together and we'll FOIA this stuff, because more people FOIAing it is going to make it harder for them to hide it.
But I would, and I just wanted to bring it up because I know your guys' heart, and you mentioned homeless vets, and here's a guy who you know, fortunately for him, he's gotten some spotlight. But how many vets in other communities, but especially there again with Gastonia having the history that it has of having a squad called the Eagle Squadron who specialized, and Skipper, you know the story, they specialized in harassing both emotionally, mentally, and physically abusing homeless people to drive them out of town. And then they claim we don't have a homeless problem. Well, of course not, because they're terrified to be there and they're dying. And when they closed down this Pastor Moses's soup kitchen and homeless shelter, their homeless deaths in Gastonia skyrocketed because they weren't getting the shelter and the food that they needed. And so, and now they're blaming it on the attention that the homeless community is getting. And I'm like, no, it's literally because you're causing it. And so I'll post some stuff on Twitter so that you guys can see it. But I'd really love to see the Dogface community get behind Josh and get involved in, obviously civilly, respectfully, but vocally get behind this cause, because if we can help Josh, we can help others who I know don't have that voice,
Absolutely.
who maybe have been abused, and they just take it because they feel like they don't have anybody else speaking for them.
You see a lot of that on the street, with homeless veterans. They feel so beaten down that they don't deserve any better, and they just take how they're treated. So it's unfortunate.
And this might be a good.
Well, and vets learn how to do that too. We just learn how to suck it up and drive on,
And this might be a good point for you, a good place for you to plug Dogface and where people can find and reach out to help.
Yeah, if you we're accessible on multiple social media platforms. You could reach us on Twitter at DogfaceNFT. You can reach us directly, and all of our links are there at www.dogface.io. We operate through Web3. We are we're an NFT project, and how we perform and raise awareness is through the sales of our NFT. 10% of all NFT sales go directly towards veterans causes, and 20% goes back in towards the DAO to continue business development, so we can continue to be here for years and years to come, to continue to be the advocate and the voice of veterans, and to bring change and awareness to the plights that veterans face on a daily basis. So come see us again, www.dogface.io.
That's awesome. You guys do amazing work there. It's really fun getting into the push-up challenge with you guys, pushing out the turn 22 to 0 hashtag. I've been pushing it out both on Twitter and through social, and yeah, we're building a nice little community. So it's great to see you guys doing this.
Thank you. Yeah, we have some multiple charitable partnerships already established. We have Peaceful Pastures in Florida. Ryan and his wife are doing amazing things. Veterans with PTSD coupled with equine therapy. Just had an IRL event over the weekend. It's amazing the things that we're doing that we're able to do. And we're always looking for more partnerships. So just you can either contact me directly at BryGuy78 on Twitter, or through the Dogface NFT or dogface.io.
Yeah, definitely reach out, because I have a lot of fun on your guys' Discord. Even though I'm not always on Discord, I do have a lot of fun in there.
Where do you not have a lot of fun, Skipper?
It's a community, it's a lot of people don't realize, we interact. It's an extension of family, and a lot of people lost that after separation and have refound that and claimed it. It's definitely breathed life into a lot of different people. And not only that, we've also helped people outside of the community as well, veterans that were in need. So, please, if you know of or are one of those that need some attention or some help, hit us up.
And I'll actually, before we wrap things up, I'll extend a thank you to Mr. Justin Schatz for allowing us to use his videos. Go onto YouTube. You can watch his video, all of his videos in entirety. 68 Shots is his name there. He's got a Give Send Go account. It's Fight Bad Cops. Or if you want to help to his legal issues, he's got PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. Again, 68 shots. It's shots like shooting, SHOTTS, with a double T. So thank you, Mr. Shots, for allowing us to use that. TC, you got anything that you want to plug?
Everybody get over to Minnesota Black Robe Regiment and look for the brief series on the USS Liberty. And then while you're there, check out the other one about defining good cop, because everybody knows what a bad cop is, but we need to know what good cops are. But yeah, check me out on that, and drive up my views here and there, because without me, Skipper's just funny. I'm the fun sucker.
And Bri, again, thank you for joining us today. Again, everything you guys at Dogface are doing there is just absolutely great. We want to keep supporting you. Encourage all our viewers to support you guys as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I
We appreciate
really
it.
appreciate what you guys do. Really appreciate the motivation that you bring to this. So thanks for coming on, Bri.
Yeah,
Thanks,
this has
Matt. Thanks
been
for having me.
another great episode. Bri, come back, join us again. And for everyone watching, thank you for being worth serving.